What's up, everybody? In today's video, we're going to be talking about the fact that Canon might be outsourcing some of their production out of Japan. They might be investing heavily in the Indian market. You also might want to stay away from SanDisk SD cards. And lastly, we might be getting a new Canon cinema camera, a teeny tiny one, in 2025. Let's talk about it. So Canon is coming off what I think is a pretty significant 2024. They released the R1 flagship, they released the R5 Mark II, is the actual flagship. They also released the C40 and the C800. No, that's the C400 and the C80. Not to mention a ton of lenses and firmware updates, and really it's been a very, very busy year for Canon. So now I plan on doing a full rundown on what to expect in 2025 out of Canon, but we do have a few news stories that I want to talk about. First things first, Canon has been eyeing moving some of its production out of Japan. Right now, Canon operates both as the designer as well as the manufacturer of many of their products, including their processors and chips. And Canon obviously does more than just cameras, right? They make medical equipment and imaging stuff. I mean, they make a ton of things, including printers and scanners and copiers. But starting back in 2008, those types of products, small cameras and what we'll call the office segment, has shown a significant decline. Less and less offices are buying big copiers. The move to remote work, the improvement in cameras in our phones, all has had an effect on how Canon does business and the type of business that they do. So 3 years ago, they actually shut down one of their Chinese facilities where they were producing some of their smaller cameras and some of their office equipment. But in the last kind of 12 to 18 months, there's been kind of a boom in the idea of separating your phone from your camera while not necessarily wanting to buy a big mirrorless camera with an interchangeable lens system. And so older compact cameras from Canon have been super popular, but also hard to get. And so people have actually been looking at things like the Nikon Coolpix and others from other manufacturers to provide both the, I guess, nostalgia factor, but also kind of a small compact camera that gives good quality that isn't necessarily attached to your phone, especially as algorithms and AI and all of that seems to really be permeating the phone space when it comes to imaging. There's a lot of discussions out there right now about whether or not the images that you create on your phone are actually real, and if you're looking for that early 2000s red-eye flash vibe that seems to be popular right now, well, a Nikon Coolpix will do it for you. But Canon's not in that market because they're not currently producing a lot of cameras like that. So they're looking to get back into that market, and they're looking to do it outside of Japan. But like with anything Canon related, they kind of missed the initial rush, and now they're trying to get back in the game. But facts are facts. If you can produce a product that people buy in volume, but you can produce it at a lower price by outsourcing it to another more manufacturing friendly environment like China, then that allows you to then focus on your kind of higher end products that you might be wanting to focus a lot of your R&D on and produce in-house, like their full-size mirrorless cameras. But Canon isn't just a company that builds products, it builds the products that build products. And one of the things that Canon does is fabrication, right? They make semiconductors, and they make the equipment that makes semiconductors. Ultraviolet lithography is a big industry. And if you've ever heard of Dutch ASML, that's the company that basically makes all the machines that make all the chips that you use. So when you hear about companies like TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor, the reason that they're able to really get a jump on some of the other manufacturers building microchips is because they've invested heavily in the manufacturing hardware that comes from ASML. But they're not the only company that makes ultraviolet lithography machines. Canon is another. And they see India as a potential market to invest heavily in. Now, wherever you end up landing on the political issues regarding China and the United States and Taiwan and all of that, the fact of the matter remains that the world runs on silicon. The world runs on semiconductors. And if anything showed us anything, is that when we can't make chips, we can't make lots of other stuff. And during the pandemic, that became super clear when you couldn't make a car because the chip that ran a button on the dashboard wasn't available. And if political tensions between China and Taiwan become an issue, it would become very complicated to be able to get chips. And so Canon is looking at India as a potential manufacturing space to put their equipment and for other companies then to source their chips from India. The other area where Canon is looking to expand in the Indian market is in healthcare, because if you didn't also know, Canon makes a lot of imaging equipment, not just the ones in our cameras. They also make things like MRIs, ultrasound, CT scanners, all of that type of medical tech. And again, they're investing heavily in the Indian market as they see a potential for that market to grow considerably in the next few years. All right, next up, if you are the owner of a Canon R5 Mark II, and you're also the owner of, say, some SanDisk Extreme V60 cards, specifically the SanDisk Extreme Pro UHS-2 V60 64, 128, or 256 gigabyte cards, you're gonna wanna put those away. Canon has released an announced warning claiming that still images on those cards may come up as abnormal or corrupt. And likely if you're shooting with an R5 Mark II, you are a pro and you are using that in an environment where you are being paid, like a wedding or portraits or corporate shots or video production, and you don't want those files to be corrupted. Now, hopefully, you are shooting redundantly onto both the CF Express card and the SD card in that instance, but either way, you don't want your card to be corrupt. So Canon says, stop using them. On SanDisk website, there is some information. Unfortunately, the resolution section of that information is blank, and no one has really given us a reason why these cards are not working. But take a look in your card storage, and if you've got any of these SanDisk Extreme Pro cards, go ahead and pull them out of rotation if you're shooting with the R5 II, at least for now. Last but not least, we are hearing from Canon, and this is a rumor that we've talked about a little bit before, that we will be getting an updated cinema hybrid camera that will be called the EOS RC. Now, previously we'd reported that there would not be an updated R5C after the R5 Mark II was released, and it got a significant number of those cinema features built in. And then again, in 2024, we've seen the C400 and the C80 get released. But it's pretty clear that Canon has really kind of a problem. And again, I've mentioned this before, that when I look at other creators who are creating with various brands who are primarily focused on social media, on YouTube, or on small content delivery, they're not shooting with Canon. Most are honestly shooting with Sony. And the problem that Canon has is the FX30 and the FX3. These are cinema dedicated cameras that are less expensive than the current flagship cameras from Canon. And while Canon does have great APS-C cameras like the R7 and the R10, these are not cinema-specific cameras. And while Canon has great cameras that shoot amazing video, like the R6 Mark II that I'm shooting on now, the R5, the R5 II, they do not have a cinema-specific camera that lands in the price point of something like an APS-C FX30 or a full-frame FX3. Now, we don't know if the RC would be a Super 35 crop sensor camera or if it would be full-frame, but we've also heard that there would be some small body introduction cameras that are APS-C because the M line is dead. And so Canon doesn't even have anything to compete with like the A6000 series cameras that also produce amazing video quality and are inexpensive with a huge range of available lenses. So I think that this is a huge opportunity for Canon to release maybe both an APS-C cinema camera with a small body, with IBIS, and all the cinema features in a compact package. Because when you couple that with all of the hybrid lenses that we're seeing coming out, honestly, that makes sense. I don't know if Canon sees it that way. I hope so. Do you see it that way? Are you a hybrid shooter who's shooting right now with an R6 II or an R7 or an R10 or an R8? Let me know down in the comments if that's something that you would be interested in switching to, or if you've already made the switch over to Sony. Anyway, that's it for the Canon news that we have today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, I'm still doing my Instagram giveaway. We are about halfway there. My plan is to get to 1,000 followers on Instagram. I get gear from companies to review all the time. This stuff just came in, literally today. I just got this from the UPS store. I'm gonna review it, and then I don't really have a use for it. But what I'd love to do is give it to you. So go shopping in my gear vault, watch this video, this short video here. I will link it down below, and I will see you over on Instagram where I'm giving away gear. Last but not least, I am opening up memberships here on the channel where I will be offering free LUTs, Lightroom presets, plugins, and other resources for creatives here on YouTube and on Instagram. This is stuff that I've created for myself that I want to give away to you free of charge-ish if you're a member, right? But it's only a couple bucks a month. It helps to support the channel. I'll also be doing lives, chats, and special videos that will be going out early to members of the channel. If that's something that you're into, go ahead and click the link below. But that's it for me here today. Thank you so much for watching. If this was interesting to you, I'd appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button. And if you thought that it was informative, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like button. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.